the B&O former Fitchburg line. We were checking that out. We were doing day 2 of scouting. We ended up at a town, Greenfield, and oh my God, we got the mother load. We found South Deerfield rail yard. It's massive, but we didn't really get a chance to document it, but we found it. So when we go back, we're going to spend a little time in Greenfield, Massachusetts. You want to see a rail town? That's a rail town. I think you'll fall in love with that place.
And who all is there as far as the railroads?
CSX and Pan Am. It's the old, not Pan Am, CSX and Norfolk Southern. It's the old Pan Am and Guilford.
Yeah.
Guilford Railroad too. And then over in Gardner, Providence and Worcester terminates up there too, coming from points in Worcester. So right now, I'm just starting to understand the railroads around here because I'm really starting to study them. So yeah, we found some really, and we got a good train too. Oh, we hit them, we hit the jackpot. We were bummed out all day because we missed one in the town of Athol, but we were at this place right at the tracks, and boom, you know, it was really good. So we're gonna post all that, but we'll show you after the show at some point. I'll show you the link. We got 33 videos from 2 weeks ago. We did the thing. It's all live. Nothing's really cut. It's not professional like yours, but we try, and we're just trying to get some footage.
Right.
And
okay, and you said at Greenfield or CSX, did you say Pan Am is there or not?
well, I think Pan Am got dissolved, but it's it's the old Pan Am stomping grounds, I think.
So that is how CSX got in there.
I believe so because there's the Vermont line. So when you cross over the Connecticut River and head westbound, that's when you hit that rail yard, and then there's 2 junctions. There's a junction heading north up towards Brattleboro, Vermont, and then it junctions off to the west right at Greenfield Station, and that heads west towards North Adams, the Hoosick Tunnel, Mechanicsville, New York. You can go points south down to Springfield, or go points north all the way to Brattleboro.
Okay.
And then on the other,
I'm gonna have to do a little. I think I'm gonna get one of those steam-powered rail atlases. I don't. The Northeast, Massachusetts, and New England are the only area in the East that I don't have yet.
Yeah, you know what? I also found there's an Amherst line that splits off too. We officially stopped filming at a town called Miller's Falls, and when we go back, we hope we can push it to Mechanicsville. But this area from here on, because we've done this run a couple times, so we know exactly where to stop. Now we don't. I spent 2 hours driving around, lost in Greenfield, because I was looking for a stupid bridge that I couldn't find.
Yeah.
You know, going out of my mind. Yeah, but we did get an Amtrak about 8:10, and then then it was a 4-hour ride home. We had fun though.
That's the problem with doing those far away, rail fanning sites is then you got to drive home at the end of the day. Let's just stay over, and spend money on a hotel room.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think you do that, do you?
No. I don't.
I don't either.
Unless I have to.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I was over on the East Coast all day Friday, over in Cocoa Beach mainly. Cocoa Beach, Melbourne, Palm Bay.
Yeah.
And I left my house at 4:30, and I didn't get back until 8:30 that night. And that just kicked my butt. Yeah,
well, at least you got home before the sun went down, and that must have been a tough ride driving west. Heading back, looking at the sun all after being up all day. That must have been kind of tough.
And it wasn't that it was cloudy at the end of the day, but it was just going through that Orlando traffic is murder.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
I mean, I hit it right at rush hour, and it was just murder. It took me 2.5 hours just to get through Orlando.
Ugh. Buddy of mine lives in Melbourne, and he cuts across he takes Route 60.
Well, yeah, that takes you down south, and then you got a lot of You got a lot of, it can slow you down because you get behind trucks and stuff out there. A lot of it's 2 lane.
Right. Yeah.
I prefer that route if I'm going to like Vero Beach or any place south.
Right.
And then I get on the turnpike there at Yeehaw and go south.
Yeehaw Junction. I know where that is. There's not much there.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Well, they've got a racetrack now, a racetrack gas stations.
Okay. Oh, that's
up a little bit.
I remember stopping there back in like '89. I was driving.
That was in the dead center of nowhere, other than the turnpike. Right?
Yeah, my mother lived in over in Inglis, and
oh right, that's right, over on the west.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, your last video, I dug a lot. That's 35 miles secondary track, 1,500 feet or whatever. That was a cool video. That's definitely.
That really, I really stumbled into that. You know, I knew they were doing it and everything, and I thought, well, yeah, so what? Who cares? And a friend of mine who works for CSX, and he wrote out a map for me, and he said, well, this is what it's going to do for us.
10 seconds.
He laid out the whole plan and everything, and I went, whoa.
Danny, 10 seconds.
We can shoot that stuff.
10 seconds, Danny.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Ready
All right.
you are.
All right. Here
Get my...
we go. And welcome to Middleborough in Review. And today's date is the 7th of May, 2023. It is post Kentucky Derby Sunday. Kentucky Derby was yesterday, and the winner for 2023 was Mage in a very exciting race. I was able to listen to it this morning. I didn't catch it yesterday, but me and Don were doing some railroad travels, and maybe we'll talk about that later on in the show today. Don, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Joey?
Good. So, Kentucky Derby winner, Mage, yesterday. Our weather, real quick. We have a guest on the line. Before we say hello to our guest, let's do the weather. Driscoll, North Dakota. 47 degrees, rainy, and going to be rainy all day today. 54 for the high today in Driscoll, North Dakota. In Driscoll, Texas, it is 78 degrees, and it's going to be a high of 91 today. Sunny skies, so it should clear up in Driscoll, Texas today. In Middleborough, 44 degrees. 77 for the high today, so very beautiful day. A great day to put boats in the water, Don.
I have to help my brother put his pontoon boat in the water right after the show. So I got to help Uncle Tom take care of it, right?
Yeah.
My brother Tom, got to help him put it in, right, Joey? Got to make sure his pontoon boat's put in the water because we enjoy it, so we got to help put it in.
Taunton, 49 degrees for the high, sunny skies, 77 for the high, 49 degrees right now, 77 for the high today, sunny skies today. So, nice sunny weather all around this area, which is awesome. And it's going to be like this for the next couple of days as well, which is always a good thing after about a week of rain.
Oh, boy, that was terrible last week. It was cold, too.
It was, yes.
I swear to God, I was so busy. Usually, the oil business is like done kaput. I was busy. I was selling more oil last week than I sold like in March.
So, we're going to say good morning to our guest, Danny Harmon. Good morning, Danny.
I can't believe you guys are getting all that rain. We're getting nothing down here in Tampa. Here. We had a little bit of rain yesterday. It's been the first thing we've had in 3 weeks. It's just crazy dry down here. I have to water my lawn every morning. Oh, good morning.
Good morning, Danny. How you doing?
I'm great.
All right, so first question we want to ask is, what is going on with Distant Signal since the last time we talked?
Well, I've had a couple of videos that I've been working on. I just finished up one on a new connection that CSX put in at Nahomah, Georgia, which is, it's I don't know, about 20-something miles to the east of Brunswick, Georgia. It's all big hump yard at in Waycross called Rice Yard. They've been having a congestion problem getting trains in and out from the Northeast to Savannah and Charleston and then up the country. So somebody at CSX came up with this idea that we've got a subdivision that runs to the east out of Waycross toward Brunswick that we don't run hardly anything on. I mean, I think they were running one train a day. They created a connection right there at Nahunta with the A line, the main line, north-south line, and they effectively made themselves a double track there. So I spent a weekend back in March and April. I spent a couple of weekends up there shooting around there, and I put together a video that I titled "The New Connection at Nahunta," and that was pretty exciting. I had no idea there was going to be the interest in just basically a track improvement, but what it did and the way it changed their traffic patterns has really been interesting. And it's really interesting to see a line in the 21st century upgraded and signaled and just generally improved rather than being downgraded or even taken out, because that's what we seem to witness more these days than anything else. And that's got me all juiced up about doing some more on Brightline, because that is probably the railroading story of the decade, maybe the century so far as what Brightline did over on the FEC. So that's what I'm trying to work on right now.
I'm looking at your numbers for that video. You put that video out 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago on Friday.
Right. 242,000.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Struck a chord with somebody, didn't it?
I'm just looking at your numbers. They're just out of this world. I mean, your Tampa area rail fan hotspots, that's 52K. The barge canal, stakes by the track. That was the one you did 2 months ago, right after that. And that one, let's see what we got for that one. We have 61K. So I guess that really did strike a nerve on people. I think anything about new infrastructure being built just really gets to people. And the new infrastructure, what was it, 3,000 feet of new track? That was it, right?
And about 1,500 feet.
Okay. Wow.
And 2 signals at either end, 2 power switches, and that was it. I don't know what the cost on that is these days. I'm sure it's not cheap, but still, what they got out of it, basically a 35-mile-an-hour second main line, a 35-mile-long second main line, that is eventually going to be a 50-mile-an-hour piece of track when they get it all upgraded. That's going to be 30 miles an hour around that connection there. It's really exciting, and I guess a lot of other people shared my enthusiasm with that. And so, like you say, we've had some hits on that in the last 2 weeks. It's really been incredible. Yeah,
I mean, I think the way you presented that video too, I think was different in a way, because you're taking. It's, first of all, that Brunswick line that runs out to Brunswick from, say, Rice Yard, Waycross. You really talk about the Jessup shortcut, which I've been on before. That's the shortcut for, you said, all the crack trains, all the Amtrak trains, the auto train. They go that way, and probably some freight, but only the freight goes that way. That's being bypassed around. Waycross, like you said, there's like the juice train used to probably go around Waycross back in the day when they had the juice train, and also that train that originates in North Bergen, New Jersey, that single container intermodal traffic train. You said that's a staple.
Intermodal, I think it's I-031 now. That's southbound, and I-032.
Right.
I think it's a northbound version of it. Yeah, it's a single stack train between Jackson and North Bergen, New Jersey, and that runs A-line all the way, and that is a super hot train.
Yeah, and you were talking about how they are working on the Howard Street Tunnel, but they can't double stack it. We have a similar situation in one of our railroads. It's the former Fitchburg line, former Beano rail line that runs up north of the state. And we have a tunnel called the Hoosick Tunnel. It's 4.5 miles tunnel. It's if you're heading westbound, eastbound portal is in Florida, Massachusetts, and comes out the west side portal in North Adams. But single stack containers too, because that tunnel was built in like 1875. So they're not going to do anything with that. They're not, obviously, they bought it through a mountain. So I could see
where does it go on the other side of it?
Mechanicsville, New York, pretty much. It goes through North Adams, yep, and then up through Troy, New York, which is on the Hudson River, and I'm not sure where Mechanicsville is. It might be just north of Troy, and might be on the west side of the Hudson River. So, so most of the freight runs west of the Hudson River down to New York City, down to New Jersey. That's and there is an east side in some freight, but the majority of the freight runs west down to New York, right down the New Jersey points, down to the ports. So it's pretty.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it here and how it goes. I've discovered, however long I've been rail fanning, with on this level in my life, which I guess has been 25, nearly 30 years now. I've just in the last year and a half discovered the value of a book called The Official Guide of the Railways. And my friend, Uncle Joe Oates, as I used to call him, he used to tell me, oh yeah, well the official guide says this and the official guide says that. I go, what is that? And it was a directory that was published every month by, I don't know who was I think Rand McNally printed it, but it had every detail on every railroad in the United States, and they're just fantastic reference materials. And I can open up, I have one from 1976 here that I use a lot, and I have another one from 1956, the month I was born, October of 56, and you can just find out anything you need to know about railroads. Who that old railroad was, and all this. I'm just embarrassed to say I've only recently discovered this. I was speaking in front of a Railroad Historical Society over in Winter Garden back in December. And I just made that same speech that I just made for you about discovering the official guide, and all these guys looked around at each other and said, well, we've got every single one of those from 1939 through 1980. It's just like, they could be in this room in the back, and they got this giant library of them.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you're the one speaking to them. So whatever you.
I know, but it was just so funny that I never knew about this stuff and how bad. Because I used to, and still do. I buy all these references, these reference books. Of course, I've told you before, I rely heavily on the steam-powered videos atlas, the regional railroad atlas books. Those are just. Those are invaluable. And plus, I collect all kinds of timetables, all kinds of employee timetables for every railroad that I can get my hands on, especially the older ones. And, that's how I do all my research. But, man, these official guides are just unbelievable.
Yeah. No, but you got to, that's something I think I need to figure out, too, because, looking at my cell phone map and trying to figure out where the railroad tracks are was out of my mind. I got home at 12:30 and I still wasn't satisfied in how I still didn't figure out the area to my satisfaction. So I was up until the 1 o'clock looking at it. I finally figured it out. When I was able to go to bed, thinking, all right, another mystery solved. So that's great. That video, like I said, that was a really good video, and you've had some other videos. I like the idea that you take your son, Robert, out on some videos, too. You had a video, I think, you put 2 months ago, maybe in end of February or March. You went up to the western part of Florida and checked out a barge canal area and that part of what's it, La Lusa Lake or something like that? Tell me.
Yeah, we did that. I think we did that trip actually in late January, and it took me about 3 weeks to put that video together to figure out what I was going to do with it. Because that's half the battle of a lot of these videos. You go out, shoot, you get this stuff, and then you get it back, and I look at all the video and log it and see what it is. That's half of my battle, is trying to figure out how I'm going to weave all this stuff together and make it into a story that's halfway interesting to watch. So it took me a little while to figure out what I was going to do with it. But I thought, well, there's got to be some people out there, at least a few, who are interested in, landforms and landmarks like a barge canal that was never used, especially in Florida. So that really rang a bell with me, because I thought, this is just remarkable. And my son Robert went with me because he was not busy that Saturday. He's getting married next February, so every time he's home, he and his fiancée are busy planning his wedding. But she was off doing something. I think she had a wedding shower that day that she was involved in. So he said to me, what are you doing Saturday? And I told him, and he said, do you mind if I go along? So that's what we did. He drove, and I navigated. And he said, well, I'd like to go up and see this thing in the Ocala National Forest near Ocklawaha, which is way out there, places I've never been to, because there's no railroad tracks out there. But we went out there and came up on this barge canal, finished barge canal lock that basically connected the St. Johns River on the east side at Satsuma, I believe the town is. That's a little station on the A line over there, and runs into a man-made lake, Lake Ocklawaha, I think it is. Anyway, I shot a bunch of video of that, a bunch of drone video, and I got all back to the house, and I thought, what am I going to do with this? And I'm just going to tell about that, about that story, the story of Florida's cross-Florida barge canal, how it was envisioned at the turn of the 20th century, and that was started again, stopped, and started, and then finally stopped in 1970 by President Nixon. It was, the huge environmental opposition to it, but the idea is to be able to bring barge traffic, across the state, basically a shortcut from the Gulf to the Atlantic side out there. And I assumed it was mostly gasoline and diesel fuel that was going to go through that, because a tremendous amount of finished petroleum products come by barge into this part of Florida still to this day. That's how we get all of our gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. It comes by barge out of Louisiana and Texas. So anyway, it was an interesting little video, I thought. Train, and we ended up doing a little cookout at the end. I like doing those little stop to eat at the end of the video. And I said, well, let's grab a couple of steaks. I'll bring some cooking stuff, and we'll do that. And that was a nice little gig. We stopped at this place, unbelievably picturesque little county park at Lake Lochloosa in Alachua County. And I had never, in the last 10 years at least, I hadn't seen any place with oak trees and Spanish moss like that. And it just blew me away. I said, let's just stop here and do this. Maybe we'll get a train.
And you did.
We did end up getting a train at almost at last light.
Yeah, and you noted that you used Robert's iPhone for it, because I guess you went set up. But I mean, believe it or not, these iPhones, they're pretty good as far as that's all we've been using. Joey has a camera,
and I've gotten some pretty good footage.
He has I'm telling you, the motion stability on those things, and just the color science on them now is so good.
Yeah.
And you would not have believed it. I should have shot that with my Sony camera also to A/B the difference, to compare the difference.
Right, but
between what it really looked like out there and what that iPhone is making it look like. Because he's got the iPhone 14 Pro or something like that. It's a slammed out iPhone. It's the latest model.
yeah,
And it brought the iris up so much that it looked like the middle of the day. And I'm telling you, it was almost dark. It was probably 20 minutes after sundown when I shot that train, and it was almost dark out there. So
yeah,
you can get some great footage with iPhones, and I understand that the Galaxies are the same way. They've got great cameras on them too. So if you don't want to spend half your year's salary on a phone,
yeah,
you can get the Galaxy.
right. But I really thought that video, because it's more like a human story, because it's, you know, a father and son situation, and I feel for that because me and Joey and I have been working on this radio show for 4 years, and we've kind of like, he's my partner in crime, so, and I know your son's working and you probably don't spend as much time as you like to with them, so when you do have time, it's just, I think, as far as looking at a story, and it's a human touch. I think the whole idea of spending time with family resonates with a lot of people, and also too, your little, you know, in the last few years, you've given your little restaurant reviews, which is cool because yesterday we did a restaurant review in a little diner in Gardner, Massachusetts. We actually interviewed the owner, and the owners were gracious enough to let us do an interview, so we'll be putting that on one of our videos in the near future. But you know, that's just a add to the thing, almost a real fan cooking show.
Well, that's it. And as far as those little food reviews that you do in the end, the iPhone itself has made those possible, because I can do those without bothering anybody. We were on the last trip I made with Robert. We were in Ohio, and we had just left the Ohio airport at Columbus. We were just leaving and going out and starting scouting. He said, "I'm hungry. Can we get some breakfast?" We looked up breakfast on the diner on the Google Maps. Found this diner that was near the airport. Went there to eat. I shot it all with my iPhone. Didn't bother anybody. Didn't say anything to anybody. And we were in and out. If you had to do that with a video camera, with the handheld video camera and all the stuff that's involved in that, you attract attention to yourself, and it becomes a thing.
Right.
But with the iPhone, I can shoot, these things that I just look like some goofball that's shooting my ham and eggs, No point in taking a picture of them,
Right.
Like so many people do with so much stuff on Facebook and Instagram and everything else now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how that whole thing came about. Like 3 or 4 years ago when I first started doing these, and believe it or not, on the latest video that I did, the how CSX built the 35-mile double track, the only real negative comments I've gotten, he said, "Hey, you didn't do any restaurant at the end." And
Yeah.
it's just because I never shot anything up there, and I did go to lunch with a friend of mine who was guiding me around, and went to a great place in Waycross called LL Creek. It's right there at Brunswick Junction on the line right there. And I forgot to shoot anything. I'd already eaten my lunch. And so I said, okay, well, we'll do that one.
Yeah, Joey?
All right.
Take a break?
Yeah, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more with Danny Hardman. We're going to talk about other stuff as well with him. And
I'm not gonna get you started on the graffiti. We'll talk about that later.
On the graffiti?
And we're not gonna talk about that. I think you went on a tirade last time we talked about it. So.
I don't want to do any tirades. I don't have the energy to do that.
All right, that's fine. I got. So when we get back, I want to ask you about the other video that seemed to get a lot of traction too, and I want to ask you how many years it took you to get the video you did on the Fitzgerald sub in Georgia. But you ready, Joey? For
and yes, we'll also be talking about it today in histories. Actually, I think we'll do that as soon as we get back. Just to get them out of the way, so I'm not rushing at the end of the show to do them. So, all right, we'll be right back here on Middleborough in review. Today's date is the 7th of May, 2023. I'm Joey Driscoll, and I am joined by Don. You're listening to WVB at 1530 AM, 99.7 FM. We will be right back.
Yeah, I was really surprised. Greenfield. It was really. I've never been to Greenfield, and they got a new Amtrak service they started too. They call it the Valley Flyer. It runs from Greenfield to New Haven, and they have the cab cars. They run the cab cars heading southbound. Yeah. So. And that's pretty much all river. It's all Connecticut River footage. The ride. So.
Yeah, and that was the last thing we shot. Last night. It was an Amtrak train.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna send you those two after the show, whatever. I'm gonna send you those two video footage to your phone just so you can see them, because we're gonna put them in the video, and then Joey's gonna send you a link of our YouTube channel, and you can check it out.
We were able to catch a freight train.
How we did it too is because we kind of wanted. There's a rail fan guy out there. It's called Freeway Jim. I'm not sure if you ever heard of him, but he just drives around the cities in his car. He has one of those, I guess one of those dash cams he drives around, and he puts music to it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we kind of like him. So what we're doing is we're doing the whole drive too, from Littleton on to Mechanicsville. So, but we are sectioning. We got parts like part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is where we get out. Show the footage of the railroads, the station or the depot, or in some case. But then there's between parts is approach to part 14, approach to part the approach to 15. So I'm not sure you're not gonna have time to watch all that.
But like some of them are gonna be like 20 minutes.
Like when we did one yesterday, it was from South Royalston to Athol, and it was 40 minutes because we took a different way. But we saw things like Tully Dam and came in a different way to Athol, Mass, which is a big manufacturing town, and we checked out all the factories. So anybody who's interested in like the areas of Massachusetts might want to watch it, because we go through the nitty gritty of the areas, and it's all right footage. I mean, we're just sitting there talking, and when we get tired, we kind of like. We talk a little too much, but it's all right. I mean, we're just shooting it live. With some screw ups. We screwed up on a couple. Joey was a little crabby at the end of the day yesterday, so his performance in front of the mic wasn't too professional at the end. But
it was still
rated
still
G
okay.
though.
It was still okay.
Kid friendly.
I'm telling you, I sympathize with you, Joey, because that's the way I get at the end of the day. When I get tired and I just lose focus, and I don't care what else is out there. If there's something big that I know is coming, I have to make myself get out and shoot it, because it's just like at the end of the day when I'm tired, I don't care about anything but just going home.
Yeah. Hey, Danny.
And all that enthusiasm that I had at Sunrise can go on.
Well, thank God for editing practices, because you're smiling, so so. We don't see any grumpy Dannies in it anyway,
Nope.
No, nobody wants to hear some grumpy old guy, talking in the background. And that's the one thing I learned about dash cams. I got a little Garmin dash cam for Christmas, and I put it in there, and I looked at a video that had saved recently just to see if I could use it for something, and I said, wait a minute, this is like
Hey, Danny.
recording everything I say, in here, and my phone conversations with people and everything. It's like, whoa.
Danny.
I hadn't realized it, but that's what this does.
Danny, quick question. I know you work for Fox 13. Is it all right if we ask you about that, or would you rather not talk about your professional thing?
No, I could talk about it.
Okay. What, 10 seconds, Joey?
Yeah, 15 seconds. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Then I'll ask you about that. I just wanted to ask you off air because I don't want to. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't sure if you wanted to.
I'm cool with that.
All right, but it's good to ask.
There we go. 3, 2, 1, 0. And we are back here on Middleborough in Review. I'm Joey Driscoll. I'm joined by Don, and on the phone we're joined by Danny Harmon of the YouTube channel Distant Signal. We're going to do our today in histories real quick. And we have a couple birthdays and passings as well to talk about. 1846, the Cambridge Chronicle, America's oldest surviving weekly newspaper, is published for the first time in Cambridge, Massachusetts. 1945, during World War II, the last German U-boat attack of the war, 2 freighters are sunk off of the Firth of Forth in Scotland. Birthdays today. 1845, Mary Eliza Mahoney, American nurse and activist. 1893, Frank J. Selke. 1901, Gary Cooper, American actor. 1933, Johnny Unitas, American football player and sportscaster. 1945, Jim Larkin will like this one. Christy Moore, Irish singer-songwriter and guitarist. Our passings for today. 1987, Colin Blakely, Northern Irish actor. And 1998, Eddie Rabbitt passed away, American singer-songwriter and guitarist. So that is our Today in History's birthdays and passings for May 7th, 2023.
All right.
Don.
Yeah. But people listen to your videos, Danny. You got a superb voice. Amber Gold, I call it. It's delicious. Your voice is delicious, okay? There's a reason behind it. And could you tell us your professional, where you work? Obviously, you have a day job, too, so...
Well, I get a lot of comments on my channel, and a lot of people say, hey, you got a nice voice. You ought to be in some kind of broadcasting. Have you ever thought about radio or television? And actually, I started thinking about it in 1974, and when I was still in high school, and that's what I've done ever since. I managed to land a job when I was still in high school. The last few months of my senior year, I got a part-time job at an AM radio station in Tallahassee, where I grew up, and then I got a real job at that station, and then I moved to an FM station in town, and from there I moved to the TV station, the CBS affiliate, as a station announcer and a fill-in weatherman. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I had this dream early on to do freelance voiceover work. I wanted to be that guy on the promos, the voiceover guy on the promos for CBS. And I really wanted to do that kind of work. So I've spent the better part of almost 50 years now just working on the voiceover aspect of my career. And in the meantime, I think various managements, the management teams that have come and gone at my station, they diminished the job of the station announcer. It's happened all over the industry. They don't have full-time station announcers anymore. So I just saw that I had better learn some other skills in this. So the first thing I learned early on in the 80s was learn how to write copy. And then I learned how to edit video pretty quickly after that. And I've kind of been a producer ever since then. This last 10 or 15 years has been extremely exciting in the business with the advent of the desktop computer revolution and all that's brought in, the software-based video production, and so I've kind of embraced that. And that's what you see on YouTube. I mean, compared to what they do on in broadcasting these days, it's still pretty rudimentary. But I like to put these skills all to work on my YouTube channel with the train videos, because the train videos are what I like, and the editing and the narration. Those are the things I know how to do by trade. So it's worked out very well for me there. And I'm still working for Fox. I work for the Fox affiliate in Tampa, WTVT, and they've been very good to me over the years. I just turned 40 years at that station. I've been there since September of '82, so it's been a good ride.
You're the voice of Tampa, pretty much, right?
Well, I don't know if that's true, but I'm definitely one of them now, because like so many other guys have retired. So
right.
I'm almost the old man in broadcasting in Tampa at this point, even though most people don't know my name or who I am. So.
That's funny. We have a Channel 5 was a big channel. I mean, growing up in the 80s and 90s, and it was Frank Avrush was the he was the voice of Channel 5. He was the voice of Boston, in my opinion. And I think he did other stuff too, but he also did some movie. He did movie topics and then and presented movies and stuff like that. So that's everything I started. Dana Hersey from Channel 38 did the movie Loft. So these are all these iconic voices that I grew up with, that which was pretty much voices. And then when they got on TV, then you started seeing what they really looked like. But you just remember those voices. Those voices are part of your everyday fabric. So every time.
Absolutely, because you watched in those days when you watched a particular station. If you watched Channel 5 in Boston, you watched the ABC or the NBC or whoever the CBS was, and you had a loyalty to your particular channel. Everybody liked a particular channel, and you heard that voice all day, day in and day out. You heard that voice, and you got to know that voice and feel like he was part of your family, and that was a big thing in the days of broadcasting, the first 3 decades of television. It's kind of gone by the wayside now because of the internet and the ability for freelance voiceover people to let their voices be accessed by TV stations all over the place. I mean, you can get something. I can write a script now and get it voiced by a professional voiceover person in 30 minutes from anywhere in the world. And I email them a script. They email me an MP3 file back, and it's done. I drop it into my timeline on my video software, and I'm off to the races. So that's how that's changed a lot. And consequently, you've lost that familiarity with the voiceover person, because everybody's got so many voices available to them. And so we use so many different voices now, and it's changed, and that's a familiarity that's lost, and it's been a sad development, I think. But that's the way it is. It's the way things are.
I agree with you on that, because it's like anything. Consistency, in my opinion, is key. It's a key element in my eyes. Even if you go to a restaurant, the menu hasn't changed. The food is the same. It's probably from the same vendor, the same supplier. Everything's the same. Then when people start just messing with things and changing things around and changing the menu, it's just the whole consistency.
You lose the loyalty.
Exactly.
In the 80s, those of you who are old enough to remember, in the late 70s, second half of the 70s, from 75 forward, all through the 80s and into the very early 90s, if you watched ABC, if you watched the ABC station in your town, no matter where you were, you saw promos for ABC's prime time every day that had the same voice on them. And that voice was Ernie Anderson. he had the most distinct voice ever in television. He was that guy that used to say, "Oh, tonight on the Love Boat."
Yeah, I remember that voice.
Remember that voice?
Yes.
That was Ernie Anderson.
Yes.
We were introduced to him in the 60s at the beginning of the Carol Burnett show.
Okay.
He was the announcer on the Carol Burnett show. And then when Sonny and Cher's show started, they got Ernie Anderson to do the intro for their show. And he did it live every night. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Sonny and Cher. And then after Sonny and Cher broke up, it was just Cher, and then he made that a distinctive thing. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Cher.
Oh, I
do. It was just like listening to melted butter.
Yeah, no.
It was just incredible.
Yeah.
Just had the best voice and knew how to use it, and knew how to be big and bold and deep, but friendly at the same time. He sounded like a guy you wanted to know.
Oh.
You know, and everything. It didn't make any difference what the promo was. Whether it was tonight on Vegas, Dan Tana gets into a big scrape with a mob ring, or or the Love Boat, or Fantasy Island, or Three's Company. It was all that same voice. And CBS did that for a while with some guys. They had a guy named Don LaFontaine in the 90s, and he was kind of a big and bold. He was a little meaner sounding, a little more, a little scary sounding, but he still had that big voice.
I love those promos, and I'm not sure what channel this was on. I think it was ABC, but we're going to take a break in about a minute, but real quick, I'm not sure. Do you ever remember that show? I think it was on ABC, but it could have been CBS. I've been watching reruns on YouTube. Salvage One. Do you remember that with Andy Griffin? You remember that show?
I don't remember that one. That must have been a short-lived series.
It was. I think it was maybe 14 episodes. It was about this junkyard dealer who builds a rocket ship and goes to the moon. I mean, and scraps the stuff on the moon for scrap, and you can only get on YouTube. So whoever taped it the day on VHS and put it on YouTube, it's really terrible footage. Not terrible footage, but it's really not. It's
yeah.
But it's definitely interesting. It's 1979. Cheese. It's great. It's just awesome. But I think that was ABC. But it was short lived. But I thought I remember hearing that announcer. But I could be wrong. Maybe it was the CBS announcer. But all the different announcers for the three had that voice. Had the if you listen to the announcer, NBC, CBS, ABC, they had their own voice that could have took you away.
During that era, NBC had Danny Dark. CBS had a guy whose name escapes me right now. I used to know him. But ABC had Ernie Anderson. And that's the way it was.
Yeah. I think Joey needs to take a commercial. When we come back, really briefly, I want to explain, if you could, about the video you did before the last video on the Fitzgerald sub and how many years it took you to get that footage. And number two, the last 5 minutes, I just want to get your perspective on transportation as far as commuter rail. We've talked about this, but we got a new commuter rail opening up in December in this area. So considering the show is Middleborough in review, we kind of got to talk about our commuter situation up here. But just want to run that by you.
Yeah, and I was reading Dawn all of the commuter rail stations in Massachusetts, and also the new and proposed ones. There's a couple opening up this year, and then there's a couple opening up in 2030. So there's expansion coming when it comes to commuter rail in Massachusetts. So we're gonna take a commercial break. We'll be right back here on Middleborough in Review. This is WVBF 1530 AM 99.7 FM. We will be right back.
So what do you think? Next year you coming up? I can't see you coming up this year, Danny.
Might be this year, because you say this line is going to open in December?
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, it may not be until December 31st.
Yeah. December 31st at 11:59 p.m.
I don't know if I could be up there on December 31st. That sounds like it might be a little too chilly for my Florida blood.
Right. What about next spring for sure? I'll have a lot of this footage done for you. I'll have a lot of stuff shot for you. You'll be able to do a lot of research. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm saying.
I'm honestly going to have to come up and see it for myself, in order to get the kind of stuff that I think I'm going to need. But
Right. Well, all I could do is just show you the footage that we got and and show you the hot spots, because the Northeast Corridor is, the MBTA along the southeast corridor. It's the Amtrak line that runs into Boston. It's a trench. They pretty much ran the Orange Line and for a 3-track commuter rail. But you start getting up to out in Wickford Junction. That's where you get the Excella's doing 150 right there. They're really opening up, but
I'll shot of that. I'm going to ride Excella too. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I want to ride Excella from New York to Washington. Just to do it, just to see what it is.
So if you come up, you think you gotta come up and take the train up? I'll pick you up in Albany and I'll rent a car. But is it your problem schlepping around your cameras and your drones and stuff and luggage?
Yeah, I could do it. It's just such a long trip on the train, and you lose a whole day on either end.
Right.
Of a trip like that, and honestly, Amtrak, long distance for Amtrak, that's got to be for fun only. You can't. I don't know who takes Amtrak, the long distances for business trips. They ain't got anything to do in a hurry, that's for sure.
No. I mean,
when we went to Ohio back in October, Robert booked a flight that left Tampa in a repositioning flight, where we just need to get a plane to a specific point to load it up. This flight left at 6:30 in the morning, and so that put us in Columbus at 9:15, something like that.
right.
Something. It wasn't long. So we got out. We had our rental car by about 10:30. We were on the road. So we had the whole day in Ohio, our whole travel day. We still had all day to shoot.
1 minute, Danny.
Now, all that stuff that I shot at the fertilizer plant, and all the stuff I shot in Marion, and all the stuff I got in we got that on Thursday. So
Half a minute.
Danny, we're starting to lose you. Danny, we're starting to lose you.
Walk too far from my phone. You got me now?
Yeah, right there. Yep.
I
Yeah.
got the earbuds in, and I went into the kitchen to microwave my coffee because it got cold. And these earbuds are only good for about 25 feet.
Is this your third cup of coffee or second cup of coffee?
Third, and I'll be working on my fourth pretty soon.
I went back in the cabin for my third cup of coffee.
And also, South Station is doing some expanding too. They're literally building like a skyscraper above it as well, which is
wow,
very interesting.
I'm sure you'll figure out what works best for you, but like I said, if you fly, I can rent a truck or something and whatever. It depends on what you want to do. If you're coming up by yourself or you're coming up with your family or whatever, but whatever you need from us, we'll be there for you.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll figure it out. Because I know driving up there is can be a challenge. So we'll have to kind of map out our strategy. It's where we're going to go, and where we're going to be at certain times. Because I know you can get jammed up.
10 seconds, Danny. 10 seconds.
Okay.
And welcome back to Middleborough in review. It is 7:57. We got a couple of more minutes. We're talking with Danny Harmon of the YouTube channel Distant Signal. Don, you have a question.
All right. Can you answer this in 2 minutes, Danny?
Sure.
What's with the feedback, Joey?
I'm sorry.
You're starting to hit buttons there.
Yes.
There you go. Much better.
Hey, you got me now?
Yeah. You did a video on the Fitzgerald sub. In about a minute, because I'm going to ask you another question after that because we're running out of time. How many years did it take you to get all that footage for that? It was a 45-minute video you did on the Fitzgerald sub in Georgia.
Took me about 2 years of traveling up there and back. It's an all-day trip from my house in Tampa up to the bottom of the Fitzgerald subdivision in Waycross, Georgia. Fitzgerald subdivision, for those who don't know, is on CSX's main line that runs diagonally across the state of Georgia from Waycross to Manchester, and then connects on to the line to Birmingham, Alabama, and then branches off to Atlanta, Georgia. It took me about 4 trips going up there. So it took me about 2.5 years to get everything I needed and get the interviews that I needed. And then it took me another year of just doing research on that. So it took some doing because I really wasn't that organized in those days as to how to get that. But that took a little bit of doing.
Okay. Also, too, we have a commuter rail opening up here in 2023. It's South Coast Rail, and I guess we'll see how it works and what kind of situation it is as far as ridership. We do have a commuter rail in Scituate, Cohasset, called the Greenbush Line that hardly has any ridership. It's just no one rides it.
How long has that been open?
So it's been open since 2007. Okay, that runs through an affluent part of the South Shore, and they built a tunnel going through Hingham Center, which was big money tunnel because but it was part of the old colony lines. But as far as a whole, we got a minute, Joey?
Got about a minute. Yeah.
All right, 30 seconds. What do you think as far as public transportation and commuter rail? Are we on the right track as a country, or do you think it's more just a waste boondoggle?
I said last time, we talked about this extensively last time. I'm telling you, commuter rail is going to be the next thing. It's not just commuter rail, it's going to be regional rail because airlines have become so difficult to fly on short hops. You have a 2-hour prep at the beginning of your trip, and you have another hour at the end of your trip to make a trip that would take you 4 hours to drive. If you can get a regional rail set up to where you can get to some place in an hour or an hour and a half, walk on and walk off the trains, that's going to be the future of this country. I think Brightline in Florida, Brightline in Vegas are pioneering the way for that. If those guys are successful, which I believe they're going to be, that's going to open the door to commuter rail or to regional rail. I think that's what we're looking at for the future.
Okay, great. It's 8 o'clock, and
All right. We want to thank you so much, Danny, for
can you stay on the line real
again.
quick and chat for 5 minutes after we go off the air, Danny?
Well, thanks, Joey. Yes, I'll talk with you as long as you want.
Okay, great.
All right.
Well, thank you, Joey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danny,
Thank you.
once
Thank
again for calling in today, and we'll be having you once again sometime this summer. So can't wait. All right. So we'll be back next week for the May 14th edition of
Mother's Day.
Yes, Mother's Day.
Right.
The May 14th edition of Middleborough in Review. Until then, have a great rest of your weekend, and the second race of the Triple Crown is coming up. I believe that's the Preakness. I don't know when, sometime in May, but we'll have more information on that next week. Kentucky Derby was yesterday.
$25 on Mage for that one.
Mage won the Kentucky Derby, so we'll see what happens in the Preakness. All right, we'll be back next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Danny, thanks again. What a great show. I love talking to you.
Yeah, that was nice. that's a lot of fun. Do you guys ever get any feedback from your listeners about what I'm talking about? I mean, because that's got to be kind of a curious to some people who just tune in and hear this stuff and not. We guys are talking about trains and stuff. And what are you guys talking about? This kind of thing. You ever get that from
Well,
listeners?
we have a couple of people who work here who listen to you big time. They know who you are. And I think we do a Facebook Live, so I think we do get a lot. We do. We're not sure. Can't gauge like our listening audience because we're such a small radio station. But I think people like it. I think it's more people like it because we just don't talk about trains. We're talking about communications. It's we blend it around. So and plus you have such a professional voice. You know what I'm saying? So. I don't know. I think there's some traction over here. I mean, I think this is the sixth time we'll have you on, 5 or 6 times in like the last 3 years, right? So it's been a while.
It's been a few, yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough. It's tough to gauge, but I know everyone I talk to, we got Danny on. They're like, oh, I'll listen. So, and like I said, we have people who listen.
That's
so
pretty cool.
I think a lot of people like this stuff because it's. Because the thing is, we don't get caught up on one subject too long. We kind of move it on, we shape it around, and like you said, I mean, it's a little AM station, so we're not too sure. But I mean, it's we can, it's our guess, so we can bring who we want in, and it seems like there's been no resistance at all. So I mean, we're getting more sponsors, so. Joey's getting more popular in town as far as the politicians and stuff. So, I mean, it takes a while to build an audience, but I think we got a little audience.
It does that. Yeah, it takes a while. It just takes steady, consistent.
Yeah.
Being there.
Yeah. The only thing you didn't do is you didn't plug your channel. We forgot to have you do that.
It's okay.
Well, you guys did that enough.
We'll do that next time.
Yeah, next week we'll thank you. Thanks for Danny coming on. Blah blah blah. We just didn't signal. Blah blah. So,
and I did say a couple times throughout the show, Danny Harmon from the YouTube channel Distant Signal. So I did say that a couple times throughout the show. So
it's technically Distant Signal Productions.